What is up, guys, and welcome back to Electrix Moto. Today we are going to be going over what we are affectionately calling the Ironman Build. We're going to talk about the things that we have planned for this bike, why we chose the ERide 3.0, and where we plan to take this in the future. All right, so let's talk about the Ironman Build and what that means to us. Well, it just kind of happened to get dubbed Ironman because of the magnesium in red that we put on this bike. We did not intend to go that direction. We did not know that that's what it was going to be, but that's what we see when we look at this bike, so that's why we call it the Ironman Build. This bike has a lot of plans and some things that we intend to do to make this bike better, make it faster, and make it pretty much more well-rounded in every way that you could imagine. Always, like I always talk about, we kind of start with our base build package, which is the bar mount, stem lock, bars, adjustable foot peg mount, as well as the elite foot pegs from Warp 9. We do not have our gut seat covers in yet. They are constantly on back order, it seems like, so we are waiting for those to get here, and we will add the seat cover. And that will complete the base and the very start of this project. But the next couple of pieces are what's going to make this bike different and what's going to make it better all around. We just got our VTB 9600 controllers. We have a red heat sink, so we will be able to take this bike up from 16 kilowatts to roughly 20 kilowatts. That's a big reason why we chose the ERide 3.0 versus the SR to make our next project bike in the shop. The SR has the tunability within the app, and you can tame that bike down both by the sprocket, which we've done, as well as tuning it down a little bit inside the application. However, 25 kilowatts is a lot of bike, and I think it's a lot of bike for a lot of people, and most people really don't understand how much of a machine that bike is. So the 3.0 for us, we just believe that it is hands down the best e-moto that you can get on the market, period. There has not been a bike that has been more appealing to me personally, coming from the Ultra B world and the Starkvark world. This bike kind of meets that middle ground, and it's exactly what we want to start on. So after the VTB 9600, we do have a couple of other plans which I think are going to take this bike up a level, which are going to make it pretty much capable of competing with anything on the market that is available today. Now, much like the SR, the ERide 3.0 does come with a 58 tooth rear sprocket. So on the SR, I feel like that sprocket makes that bike even more uncontrollable in certain scenarios, but on this bike, I think it was the perfect choice. Now, when we talk about bringing this bike up another level and putting components on it that can make it contend with other bikes like the SR, we are gonna go with the EXT front forks and shock. They just came out with their new kit for the 3.0 and the SR. However, I think the SR is still a little bit too powerful for the setup that can work with the 3.0. 25 kilowatts, like I said previously, is a ton of bike, and that bike, if you wanted to build a bike that is a small frame bike that can compete with bikes like the Sur-On Ultra B, that is the one to go with. And if you can only have one and you want a nice mix of race and street, that kind of deal, and you just want a ton of power, then the SR is your play. Obviously, we have the luxury of having more than one bike. So the Ultra Bs are the race bikes. Those are the bikes we take on tracks, that we take on really hard trails. But this bike is one of the most fun bikes that you could really ever ask for. And I say that after talking crap about the wheel setup or the tire setup. For a long time, I hated these style of tires. I did not think they were conducive for the style of riding that we like to do. However, after putting several hundred more miles on these bikes, I've realized that this is one of my favorite tire setups. Now, it's not my favorite tire specifically. I would go with a Shinko, and I will be going with a new set of Shinkos for this bike as well. But these mixed hybrid style tires allow you to ride so many different types of terrain. And I think most people have one bike. And if you can only have one bike, how do you choose? For me, the 3.0 is the one singular bike that can do just about everything, and it does all of it really well. It's not going to beat the big SR out on the motocross track, and it's not going to beat the Ultra B. It's going to have trouble keeping up with the Alta Sigma, but what it does is it has some of the best out of the box components that you can get, and with a 16 kilowatt peak power output is really the perfect amount of power for a bike of this size. That's my personal opinion. I know a lot of people really like to go fast and they like that uncontrollable style of power, but for me, that's not the way that I like to ride this bike. This is a great BMX park. This is a great hard pack jump track. This is a great street bike. It has a lot of functionality, something that you probably couldn't do with the SR. Having Fast Ace setup on this bike right out of the box is unbeatable, but being able to take this up to the EXT, the plushness and the tunability of the EXT is going to make this bike a real weapon, and we are excited to get that stuff in our shop and start building this bike out. So something we get asked all the time is, what are the things you need to do to make this bike better, specifically the ERide 3.0? And for a large majority of the people who ride these bikes, you need to do 0 things to make this bike fun. It comes out of the box a ton of fun. There are some small minor things that you can do to make it a little bit better, have a better seating position, have a better riding position, and put a little flair on the bike that matches your particular style. But overall, this bike really doesn't need to be touched. And obviously we do have the luxury of touching new items and bringing stuff in and trying it out on our bikes, but that's not realistic for people in the real world that don't do this for a living. So we are going to kind of go through that. I really hate to take these forks off because they are really so good, but I want to try out the EXTs. I want to see what they can bring to the table that maybe this setup can't bring to the table. And if you're used to riding the bike, you get comfortable the way it handles and the way it maneuvers. So once you start introducing more different components that completely change the geometry, you're going to have to relearn the way that that bike rides, and that's going to take a little bit of time for us. Another reason for the EXT is it comes with a drop crown. So we will be able to put a 21-inch front on this bike. I don't want any more than what I have on the rear, maybe a little bit more tire, but still that Shinko style, dual sport style tire. But having a front 21 will even further change the geometry, lift that front end up, and it's gonna give you a lot more capability than what most people probably give this bike credit for. So for us, that will be the step that comes after the suspension. Once we get that tuned the way we like it, we may have to make some minor adjustments after we put on the drop crown, but overall, we will be in a good spot and a good base to really test this bike and see where it can take us. Okay, so that is it for us today. We have this bike in a perfect spot to start putting new components on it. If you guys have any questions about the 3.0, about any of the bikes we carry, our honest opinion, we'll be happy to give those to you. We're not here to sell you bikes or sell you parts. We're here to give you information, to show you exactly what it is that we do, why we do it, and if it works for you, great. And if it works within your budget, that's awesome too. If not, it's good stuff to know and how you can make your bike better if you ever choose to do that. So as always, any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll get to them first thing every morning. I will see you guys on the next one.